Ever wonder why some AI images look spot on while others miss out? What if you could train some of your images and make them look like your unique style and preferences?
Get out of here.
Well, today we're going to unveil a secret that was launched by Midjourney, which shows us the AI works and the personalization. Let's just jump right in and see what they actually spoke about, and then we're going to go from there. We can clearly see that on June 11th, this was released. This is known as the personalization feature. It's an early test version, as we can see over here, it's written, and it is a model personalization. What does it mean? So for every time you write a prompt, there remains an unspoken thing that happens, which we are not able to control. That has always been the biggest challenge and issues whenever working with different models, how you can make the models more restrictive and more in our control so that we have more of the control. That's what they're mentioning here. Our algorithms usually fill in the blanks with their own preferences until now. This is where it's going to be interesting. So the model preferences requirements would be such. And you can read this. I'm going to put this down in the description. You can actually read the entirety of this. You essentially would be able to train your model if you go to the task section and if you click on the rank images. So if you're able to rank like 200 images, then you're going to get the personalization, because then Midjourney's bot will be able to allocate a specific preference style as we saw over here. So if you go over here and if you see that you would need roughly 200 images for the pairing to create your own style, and then we will see how that works. So if you go over the rankings over here, yeah, so clearly you can see I've done close to 600 images here. And the way that the ranking system will work, so if I go again, you go over here in the tasks, and then you click on the rank images. Once you click on the rank images, you would see two images on your side. You can either click on the images, or you can skip the image if you do not like any image, or you could just use one or two to skip or like. So for this instance, I would go for two and I would go for one. And it's basically your own preference. So you might think something is working or not working. You also have the option to skip. The more you do these, the more it'll help build your personalization. As you can see, it's also written on the top there. So what this is doing is this is adding more character. Also, when you would go on the explore page and the images that you like over on this page, so I'm clicking on specific images that suit my liking and taste. What this does is now it makes your Midjourney truly yours as opposed to somebody else's Midjourney. And I'm going to show you that right in a second. We're going to have an example of that. So we can see that I'm clicking around a couple of images that I find to be nice. And then the same thing, you go back over here. So the training process is very simple. So I'm going to go again. I'm just going to click a couple of images, the ones that I feel are really good and that I feel that might have some aesthetic for me. Again, sometimes they might also give you these kind of tricks. So you would have to know for attentiveness. So I'm going to obviously to click which one. And that's it. So this is the training part of the whole process. Now we're going to get into Discord and we're going to see exactly how this would be. And I'm going to also show you how this is done on the Midjourney's website version. As you can see, I'm on the alpha version, but the alpha version is open for most people. So I'm going to show you that, but I'm going to first show you how it's done on the Discord version. For this example, we're going to have a very simple prompt and I'm going to do a cat. Let's call it Tom, a cat named Tom sitting on a bench. So we don't have anything. It's just a super simple prompt. It's a very basic prompt, as we would say. And then I'm going to let it go. So we could see that the cat named Tom sitting on a bench, the basic prompt that I just mentioned here, gives us a cat named Tom, but it's just a cat and there is no specifics to it. Now, based on the training that I did and that you can also do, we can see difference. And this is how you're going to add that. So to do that in a way where I don't have to copy paste, I'm going to do the re-rolling. This opens the pop-up, and then what I'm going to do is dash P. So that P is going to be for the personalization. So as we saw previously when it was mentioned in the Midjourney's news that a lot of unspoken things were just presumed by the algorithm, now no more. So the minute I put the P, you're going to see what happens. We can see that the first thing we notice is automatically a code. Now, if you also use the same code, you're going to see that it will give you a similar result. Now, what I'm going to do another thing is I'm going to be now adding a seed number to this. So dash seed, and you can add any number. So I'm going to go for just a random number here. And then we're going to add that. Now, directly upon adding that seed 54321, you can see that it gives us a different, but it's in the similar kind of style as to this one. Now, these three kind of still look the same. So the thing that we're going to do is we're going to also add the style parameter. For this, we're going to push it to, let's say, S600. And you're going to see what happens here. Putting the strength as 100, we can see some weird anomalies happening straight from the get-go, except for this one, which looks like a meatloaf cat. The other ones just look like they're getting merged in. So while this, again, it always uses the same exact personalization code. To further demonstrate it, I'm going to be using a simpler one word. So I'm going to do a tree, but I'm not going to use any personalization. So the personalization is not there. But before I jump into that, if you want to directly have the personalization embedded for each and every single section, like each and every single prompt, you go to the settings, and right over here, you would have the personalization option. Now, I don't have the personalization option here. I'm gonna actually turn it off so we don't need that. There we go. So the personalization option is turned off for me, but if you ever want it, you get it right in the settings, so you know where to get it. So we do a tree without the personalization. The personalization, really what it's doing in its essence is that it helps create preference based on your own choosing from the pair ranking as I've shown previously. So it doesn't have any biases, but it uses preferences from the general ideas that we are giving. And it's not giving biases in general from the community. It is going to be different for every single person. So if you like my preferences, or if you like my kind of style that it would be showing up in my preferences, in my personalization, then you can definitely use that in yours. And I would like to see, if you would like to share, you could share it down below what you've done with that specific personalization code. These are obviously, as Midjourney has also said, a complete influx, just something that we have to check. And lo and behold, we can see this is a tree giving us 4 different versions. This is still very much a feature, but it's an interesting feature nonetheless. It's also a good idea to know that Midjourney is trying to give us more and more control. And now with the same exact tree, I'm going to do, like I mentioned before, I'm going to do the reroll, and we're going to do -p. So that is the personalization. Because when you put the -p personalization, you're basically activating the personalization, as you can see here. It automatically gave me that code. Now that code is what is being added based on the preferences of the 600 or so images that I have selected in the pair rankings, and the images that I liked in the community feed, which I showed you earlier in the video. So the same thing if you do in your videos, you will also get personalization for yourself. Now, as you can directly see over here, we see complete different style from a tree to a tree with my personalization code. The previous ones were a little bit harder for me to also gauge, and probably also you as the viewer. You can tell me if you see something different from the personalized and non-personalized versions of the cat named Tom sitting on a bench. But with this one, we can actually see it. Like, if you see this tree, we see 4 different stylistic approaches, just a tree. And if we see this one, we also see 4 different stylistic approaches, but more in the preferences of what I liked. And I kind of like more photographic, a more cinematic style. So it's really nice, but do keep in account, this is a personalization to your needs. So yes, it is a good thing, but there's also a caveat. Now we're going to be doing the strength again. So to do the strength again, we're going to be doing the reroll, and then we're going to be going --s. So again, like I mentioned, S, we go from 0 to 1000. So for this one, let's crank it up all the way to 1000, because the previous one we did 600. So we're going to go all the way to 1000. And we can actually, while that is being loading, we can actually see some of these images. I mean, if I actually upscale this image over here, upscale this image number 2, this actually looks like a photograph. So you can see how these images really look with the personalization code. So once again, if you want to use my personalization code, please feel free to share and check it out and see if you like the style. I do not have a control over the way that it is. All I know is that I'm just giving my preferences to Midjourney, and it is creating itself a different style. For me, I kind of am enjoying this style as opposed to this one over here, which I feel is a bit more arbitrary. Sure, it gives me more choices, but as Midjourney has also mentioned, as we've also seen, that it's more unspoken and there's a lot more community bias. So there's a lot more things going on over in these specific 4 images. As opposed to these ones, it's a bit more nuanced, it's a bit more cinematic, it's a bit more photographic, something that's right up my alley, something that's I would prefer. May not be something that is to your preference, which is why this is such a killer feature, in my opinion. Again, do take this with a grain of salt, because this is still a fun feature, as Midjourney has also mentioned. So while it's there, just take it with a grain of salt. And this is cranking it all the way to 1000. So as you can see, Midjourney literally just took one style, one strength, and just ran with it, but definitely still keeping my aspect of the preference that I like, which is the more cinematic, the more photographic aesthetic to it. And if we just open up this one, you can actually see it being exactly to that style. So this is how you get the personalization working on the Midjourney's Discord server. Now we wonder, how does it happen over on the Midjourney's website? Now for the Midjourney one, we can directly go over here in the images, and we can go to the settings, and you can see we have the option to personalize. I did this portrait of Sri Krishna, Lord Krishna, and I want to see, that was in version 3. So just for the fun of it, I'm going to take this same exact one, and we're going to see with this current style how it looks. If you're curious to see what it also looks like, I'm also going to be having it on my Instagram, so you can check it out on my Instagram, which is going to be the non-fungible AI. It's going to be down in the link also. You can check it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the use prompt, And you can see straight over there, we have the use prompt. But I'm going to wipe out the version 3 because we're not going to be using version 3. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on these 3 adjustment settings over there. And then the minute we click there, I'm going to be clicking on the personalize on. So the personalize on, and we're going to have the standard mode, not the raw mode. You can also do it in the raw version, but we're going to do the standard. And we're going to be having the fast and the stealth mode is on. So once we have all of this ready, then what we're going to do is we're just going to send it. The minute we do that, you can see it's right over here in the create section. My God, if the 2020 version, 2022 version of this image would have seen this one, these are just phenomenal. It has the cinematic quality. It has just everything. And also, if you notice the code, the same exact code that we saw in Discord, it's the same exact code. So that is my personal code. I'm actually going to also link it down in the description. So if you're interested, you can take it from the video, and you can also just take it from the link down below because the code is free to use. So you can honestly use it yourself. You can see if this style matches you, if you like the style. But I definitely am blown away. You definitely need to tweak a little bit. You need to work around, but you can see that it definitely does something more interesting. And the biggest thing is, the most important thing would be that you need to add more to your preferences. So whatever you like in the community feed and whatever you are adding in the rank pages is what is helping you build the personalization. So that is the most important thing. But one more thing that I want to show you in the Discord. It's not just the simple words or the simple terms. What happens to the big ones, like the big prompts and complex prompts? Now, as you can see, I already have a prompt. This is a fairly longer prompt than the usual just tree or cat or just an old picture. So first, I'm going to show you what the prompt will look like. So here's what, and also I've added an aspect ratio. If you haven't seen my details about aspect ratio, I'm going to have a video about that over here. So you can actually check it out over there. I did speak in depth a little bit about some of the other features. So you can check it out over there as well. Okay, now that we have this, we can clearly see this is a fashionable photograph, but this is a generic photograph in the sense the style is there because of the prompts, because of the way I have given the prompt. But can I make it more personal, you say? Exactly, I can make it more personal. With what, you would say? With the dash dash P. That's it. You put the dash dash P, and we're going to see how it makes it different. The most unique thing about the personalization is, one, you don't have control, but two, you also have control. How do I mean? Because you're doing the pair ranking, you're kind of building your preferences almost like you're building a playlist of music or you're building your Instagram feed. Basically, you're just creating your own vibe. So this could be my vibe for the kind of photos I would like to shoot, but maybe this is more of my vibe is what they're trying to go for, especially with the aesthetic. Say, for example, with the previous one, the aesthetic of this one was spot on with what I would like, more photographic. And all the time, the personalization code, again, will always be the same. So for the person, for me, it's always going to be this QHXA298. It's always going to be the same. So here you can see for yourself, this is the original one. And right next to it, you can see the new one. And you tell me where the difference is. I'm actually going to do also like a strength test on the new version with the personalized one, and we're going to see that as well. So over here, you can see that definitely has more of a character, in my opinion. You can tell me down in the comments below what you feel about this personalization. Again, like I'm saying, this is a feature that we have to take it with a grain of salt. Here, I'm going to add a strength of 400. Given that we've done 600 and we've done 1000, it's a good idea to have it in 400 just to see what the strength would look like. And clearly we can see that this personalization, if not it does anything, it definitely adds a little bit extra controllability for us artists who are trying to make something more unique than just using the prompts. Sure, the prompts are still important, but having these features and preferences are definitely not a bad idea. Now, as we can see with this one, as opposed to the other two, the top one over there, right next to this one, is the one from the original one, which is without the personalization. The bottom one you can see is with the personalization, and you can see this one. Honestly, I kind of like this one with the strength of 400. Again, prompting is all about the tweaks, but this is a huge highlight feature, which I would recommend you to check it out if you have not yet. And if you have checked them out, I would like to see some of your work if you would like to share them. And yeah, with that said, this feature, while it's still there, you should definitely check it out. I don't know if Midjourney is going to keep this. We will have to see in the future. For that reason, I would really recommend that if you would like, here's a video that YouTube thinks that you might like. And here's a playlist of all Midjourney videos that are past, present, and future videos that are going to come out of new updates. So there's going to be a bunch of new updates. So you can definitely check them out over there. If there's a change on Midjourney, I'm going to have you covered. Don't worry about that. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please feel free to subscribe over here. I'm not going to just cover about Midjourney, but all things AI and just like deconstruct it for creatives, anybody who's interested in all things AI.